Imagine a spirit so vengeful, so relentless, that it didn't just haunt a house, but an entire family, tormenting them night after night until death itself became part of its legacy. This is no ghost story whispered in shadows. This is the true tale of America's most famous haunting, the Bell Witch of Tennessee. The story begins in Adams, Tennessee, in the early 1800s, a quiet farming community where faith and superstition walked hand in hand. Life was simple. Families worked their fields, prayed in their churches, and lived by candlelight under the wide southern skies. Among these families was John Bell, a respected farmer, his wife Lucy, and their children. By all accounts, they were ordinary, hardworking, and prosperous. Their land stretched wide, fertile, and green, seemingly blessed, but blessings can twist into curses. It began small. John Bell noticed strange animals on his property. A large, unnatural-looking creature, part dog, part rabbit, appeared at the edge of the field one dusk. He raised his rifle, fired, and watched it vanish into the shadows without a trace. Soon after, strange scratching and knocking sounds echoed through the wooden house at night. At first, the family thought it was mice or the settling of timber, but the sounds grew louder, sharper, and purposeful. Knock, 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 always in patterns, always in the dead of night. Then came the whispers, low, incomprehensible murmurs that slithered through the dark hallways. The children heard their names called in voices that were not their own. Covers were pulled from beds, hair was yanked, cold, unseen hands gripped their ankles. What started as nuisance quickly turned into torment. As the disturbances grew, neighbors were called in. They too heard the knocking, the scratching, the moaning voices in the walls, and one night, clear as day, a voice finally spoke. At first faint, like wind, the rough trees, then sharper, more human. "I am a spirit. I am a witch." The entity's voice was strange, sometimes deep, sometimes shrill, sometimes echoing like many voices at once. It laughed, it cursed, it sang hymns in mocking tones. It could recite scripture, word for word, faster than any minister. The Bell family realized this was no ordinary haunting. The spirit claimed to be the ghost of Kate Batts, a woman of the community who, some said, had quarreled with John Bell over land. Others believed she had been cheated by him. Whether truth or gossip, the voice proclaimed, "I am Kate Batts's witch, and I will kill John Bell." From that moment on, the entity was called the Bell Witch, and it meant every word. The witch grew stronger. It beat the children with invisible hands. One daughter, Betsy Bell, suffered the worst. She was slapped, pinched, scratched, and sometimes thrown to the floor by unseen force. Visitors who mocked the witch were humiliated, some beaten, others tormented by their own secrets, shouted aloud by the entity's voice. Ministers were ridiculed in their sermons. Strangers passing by reported hearing shrieks and laughter coming from the Bell house. The witch's power wasn't confined to the farm. It followed John and his children into the fields, into the woods, even into town. Horses were harassed, wagons stopped by invisible barriers, and nights were filled with shrill cries echoing across the countryside. And yet, sometimes, the witch was disturbingly kind. It sang soft hymns to Lucy Bell when she was ill. It offered fruit and comfort to the children after tormenting them. This cruel unpredictability made it even more terrifying. Affection one moment, violent assault the next. It wasn't simply haunting the family, it was toying with them. Word of the haunting spread across Tennessee and beyond. Curious travelers came to witness it for themselves, and the witch, hungry for attention, performed for them. It would answer questions in detail, whisper secrets no one else could know, and mimic the voices of neighbors perfectly. Sometimes it would recite sermons delivered miles away at the exact same time. One legend says Andrew Jackson, who would later become President of the United States, visited the Bell farm to see the witch. His men mocked the spirit until their wagon wheels locked tight, impossible to move. The witch's voice rang out, "Now, General, will you stay the night?" The wagon moved again only when Jackson admitted defeat. He later remarked it was one of the strangest nights of his life. Years passed, and the Bell Witch did not weaken. Its voice grew sharper, more venomous. Its obsession with John Bell darkened into prophecy. John's health began to fail. He suffered mysterious convulsions, fits of trembling, and a slow wasting away that no doctor could explain. On the morning of December 20th, 1820, John Bell was found unconscious, his body slack and his breathing shallow. Beside his bed was a strange vial of black liquid, poisonous, unknown. The witch's voice filled the room. "I gave old Jack a dose of that last night. He will never get up again." And it was true. John Bell died that very day. At his funeral, as mourners gathered in grief, the witch's mocking voice filled the churchyard. It sang drinking songs, laughed loudly, and declared victory over its enemy. The curse was complete. The witch wasn't finished. It turned its torment back on Betsy, John's daughter. Betsy was engaged to a young man named Joshua Gardner, but the witch harassed her day and night whenever the wedding was mentioned. Its voice hissed in her ears, "You shall never marry Joshua Gardner." Objects were thrown. Betsy was beaten more violently than ever. Eventually, she broke off the engagement, too terrified to go against the spirit's will. Her future, just like her father's life, was shattered by the witch. And then, just as suddenly as it had arrived, the Bell Witch announced its departure. In 1821, it told the family it would leave, but return in 7 years. True to its word, the entity returned briefly in 1828, speaking with John Bell Jr. about strange prophecies of the future. Then it vanished again, promising it might return in 107 years. Whether it ever did is lost to history. But in Adams, Tennessee, the legend never died. The land where the Bell family once lived is still whispered about. The cave near their property, now called the Bell Witch Cave, is said to echo with voices and footsteps when no one is inside. Visitors claim to hear whispers, feel touches, and see shadows moving in the torchlight. The witch's story has seeped into American folklore as the most documented haunting in U.S. history, a tale of vengeance, mystery, and terror. The Bell Witch wasn't just a ghost. It wasn't a wandering soul or a passing shadow. It was something darker, something ancient. It fed on fear, on faith, on power. It destroyed a man, broke a family, and left its laughter carved into history. And even now, if you walk the quiet farmlands of Adams, Tennessee, you just might hear it, a whisper, a laugh, a voice in the dark. Because some spirits never leave, they only wait.